Go ahead and kind of start clearing some space up here for us. The general title that I put together for this, and I really kind of went back and forth a few times because financials can mean so many different things. So I just kind of gave a real generic title, basically financials for small businesses, with a big importance on knowing your costs. But again, we'll probably cover quite a few things, but that was just kind of the generic title that I worked with. That being said, I'm just going to do a brief introduction about myself. After that, just kind of want to open up to each of you guys. Just tell me a little bit about yourself, your business, what kind of maybe financial questions you have about your business. And then that will just kind of help me maybe kind of cater what we talk about. And then after that, we'll kind of jump into it a little bit. We're actually representing the Community Economic Development Corporation, which goes by the acronym CEDCO. Currently, we actually are housed in the Urban League building. We rent space over there, but actually working out of Launchbox quite a bit. I like the white walls here and being able to tap into the flat screens and things along that line. So we're kind of bouncing all around it, kind of even maybe call it a virtual office. I mean, we go wherever we need to go. This is a website. It's basically a placeholder website. We'll have that live probably in about a week. We'll have a little more information up there. This is basically a voicemail catch system. So if you call that, I'm not going to necessarily pick up right away. It basically emails me a voicemail and then I'll wind up calling you back, usually from a different number. Name, title, and this is actually my email address. It's just real simple, bk@cedcosupports.org. Born and raised in Racine, Wisconsin. Graduated from Case High School in 1996. And basically ran away from here and told myself I would never ever come back here. Ran away to college at Florida A&M University, which is in Tallahassee, Florida. Went down there, got 2 degrees down there, got an undergraduate in business administration, and then I wound up getting a master's in business administration in finance. Left there, actually worked with Freddie Mac in Washington, D.C. between undergraduate and graduate school. After I graduated, actually moved over to England, worked with Chase Bank over there. So I guess the bottom line to that, I've basically been a numbers nerd, probably as far back as I can remember. I've basically been an entrepreneur, been working with entrepreneurs for probably 10 or 15 years. I really don't even know how to do anything else right now. And a lot of people kind of, wonder about my job. But so much of what I do, either for here or for some other ventures, is really what I'm doing right now. I talk to people and listen to people, and they tell me about their business and business ideas, and I really try to work with them to solve those problems. Now, excuse me, by no means am I trying to come in here and say, like, I'm an expert, like I can fix everything going on with your business and solve every problem. But I have teams of people around me. And part of the teams of people is actually doing stuff like this. So I'm going to probably have a heavy emphasis on finance because I know that. But again, if I need someone that has cooking expertise, I'm going to say, you know what, I need you to go talk to Tina. Or I need somebody that's trying to get into video work and photography work and things along that line. That's how I'm able to bring a team of experts around me, is to really sit out and network. So I'm good at what I'm good at, but I realize there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm not the best at, and so I had to kind of let go a little bit and start kind of trusting other people and reaching out to other people. So my first exposure, I guess, to truly being an entrepreneur was actually when I came back from England after I graduated from business school. And my father and I actually bought Barbecue Time over on the south side of Racine, which was basically DeKalb and Racine Street. And one of the other things that I really learned from that was it's really, really important to have passion for what you're doing. And this is one of the things that one of my business partners says, and he does consulting work as well, is that a lot of times we hear that people are doing it for the money. I get it. Everybody needs it. I get that. But when things get a little challenging for you, if it's just about the money, so many times you're going to split. And I other stuff. But I realized that the reason I bought it was really as an investment. Like, I wanted to kind of franchise it, open up 3 or 4 of them, and then just kind of like manage, my little empire, little Bill Gates thing, or whatever going on. And so when it got hard, I was just like, I don't want to slang barbecue all day long. I mean, I got one Best in Racine, and all that good stuff. But it was just I didn't like getting up and only sleeping 4 hours a night. I just didn't like that. And then what wound up happening, it was probably the straw that broke the camel's back. But I had probably 3 or 4 people that were interested in leasing the restaurant out. And I said, you know what, for the amount of time I'm putting into it, I'm just going to lease it out, get what I'm going to get in rent and go figure out something else. So a guy gives me like $2,000 cash deposit. I walk into Barbecue Time. I'm trying to think, the doors here. So we walk in. I look up and like the ceiling collapses. I'm like, boom! I'm just like, man, you gotta be kidding me. Like, what I'm saying? I finally have somebody in here willing to rent this thing, and the ceiling collapses on me, like from the top roof, not like these tiles, like the big roof collapsed. And I had gotten like a quote on it before. It was like $20,000 to get it. And I was like, I already dumped so much money into this. I'm not doing it anymore. So anyways, that's just kind of my long entrepreneurial story. That being said, I'll kind of open it up. You know, Tina, why don't we start with you? Give me a little introduction on what you're into, and then again, what kind of really interests you.
I'm Tina.
Smiley Tina.
Sometimes. I'm gonna call mine, technically it started off as a hustle, but the man is actually opening my eyes that I would really wanna do this, something I'm passionate about. I'll cook for you and be upset with you at the same time, but I'm gonna feed you. So right there, I knew I was passionate about it. We're out of home right now, which when you're dealing with food, you know it's all kinds of whatnot that you can and you can't do. So at this point right now, I'm semi-content with something mom and pop, but I have a bigger vision of a sit-down soul food restaurant. For one, we don't have that here in Racine, so there's no soul food place. And when we get one that doesn't last, I want stuff that you know your grandma used to make. And yeah, and you get your money's worth. Right now, we're doing it from home. I've actually picked up steady people, my regular customers, and so we have different visions. And with what he does, it kind of go hand in hand because he books weddings. So I'll be able to cater, or so that's like some of my long-term goals.
Why don't you tell her a little bit about Halo, and then do you know much about it?
A little bit. Halo is a place that people like yourself can rent space. It was $5 an hour, but now it's $10 an hour. You can produce products. You can produce whatever type of product you want, or you can cater, you know,
Really?
and you won't have to worry about the legal aspect of cooking in your home. You can go and just rent space out there.
And where is that located?
It's on Dakota.
Oh, like Halo? The home
Yeah,
Halo?
Yes,
that,
it's a kitchen.
the commercial kitchen they have in there, they basically rent that up. They rent that out. There's a couple things that really just kind of jumped out at me. One was getting your money's worth. Tina mentioned that about food, so that's something that we can kind of tie in about the financial piece of it. Word of mouth, I always think is great. So much success happens with word of mouth. I mean, granted, everybody wants to do, you know, advertising and all that stuff. But what I've noticed is that if you can really satisfy those core people you start with, they're gonna tell. And I was actually talking with my partners about it. You know, I said, if I can make the 50 people around me and do the best job I can for them 20,000 people that are down the road, I'm gonna get them later. Whereas before, I was trying to start here, and it's a lot harder to convince 20,000 people to get behind you. But if you got 50 to say, no, you know, Brent's really good at this. Or the other part, and this goes to our partner next to her, is the synergy part of it. So she mentioned she's doing the catering, but Craig is actually doing photography as well. And so if he's doing a wedding, or probably really anything, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a wedding, a lot of times food comes with that. And so that's a good way to kind of cross-market that and to kind of diversify your risk. So, you know, they're looking for multiple services. And it's probably even, you know, I would guess when you talked about, you know, adding food yourself, with you having an adult home, you got to cook in there as well. I mean, so that's one of the other things you'll notice a lot of times. There's a lot of other synergies. A lot of times you might want to perfect one or two of those pieces, but you'll notice that as you grow, those opportunities will just keep coming and coming and coming. So you brought up at least 3 or 4 points that were really great. When you started with passion, you know, I mean, that's great too, but those definitely jumped out. So let you go ahead, Craig.
Well, I'm Craig. I was married and the wife passed away. And I had, at the time, my son was 5. So we came back here to Racine, had to move back in with my mom, and I was still traveling back and forth to Illinois to work there. When my son was finna get ready to start kindergarten. So I was like, it's something I have to do to be there for him, you know, every day. Full-time parent, ain't no come get him on the weekends, and that's it. So it was full-time. So Melvin Bumpers was running Thumping Thursdays over at the bar over here. And I seen Al set up, take pictures and everything. He was taking pictures with a little digital camera. And I always did it for a hobby. Talked to Mel, and Mel was like, you can come in and do it on Thursdays. And I know if you say you go do it, you go be there, you go be on time, you go do what you need to do. I did it the first Thursday. I made $5 after spending, I think I spent about a good $600. So then 2 days later, somebody called, she talked to somebody and they was gonna start, doing things at Ginger's on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. To make a long story short, one of the other local photographers here named Ken Lumpkin. He said, "Young cat, come here. Let me talk to you for a second." He said, I got a business opportunity for you that you may like. He said, "Why don't you come in, you go half on the studio, and you do whatever you want to do. And then you can take some local pictures with me for the Insider." Man, once I got into the studio with him, I learned about the ISOs, the f-stops, the this, the that. And I was like, wow, there's more to it than going to the club, taking pictures and things. Like I said, things to start expanding. And that broadened my horizon to start doing the weddings, the quinceañeras, the birthday parties, the anniversaries, the christenings. And he brought me in on my first quinceañera. I said, "Man, I don't know what I'm doing." He showed me, said, just take your time, just shoot some pictures. You got an eye, and you passionate about what you do. And when it got to there, it just exploded. And now I'm doing the senior pictures. Me and him branched off. I got my own spot now, so.
I am Kenya McRae. I have over 15 years of experience as a systems engineer. And as I was, as an engineer, I was on the board of a nonprofit organization. And that's how I came up with my new system. Because I would spend 6 to 7 days a week, maybe 3 to 4 hours a day, manually inputting their data into their system. And I was like, it had to be a better way. And you have to, being a nonprofit, you have to make sure that you are tracking all of your contributions efficiently and accurately. And the only way we were doing it was manually inputting it into the system. And so I came up with this new system called Scantribution. And what Scantribution does, it allows you to automate the process of inputting your data in. It's like you scan, like I know you've probably seen Neat Receipt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's kind of like Neat Receipt.
That's
but-
what popped in my head.
Yeah, it's kind of like Neat Receipt, but it is for contributions. Like when you go to church, you fill out your envelope, you scan the envelope in, and my system not only will allow you to scan the envelope, but it allows you to count currency, spits out any counterfeit. It allows you to read checks. It allows you to, and then automatically deposit the money into your account. Yeah, so.
You wrote the code for that?
No, I am looking for someone to write the code. I wrote the concept document, and it's proprietary. I do have a patent pending. Yeah.
Ooh.
It's a really good organization. It's one of our partners. It's out at the IMET Center, which used to be called CADI, Center for Advanced Technology and Innovation. But they actually do work with patents out there. I know there's a provisional patent you can get now, and I think provisional is like,
125.
yeah, it's not a lot. Full-fledged patent, there's a project I have, it's like $15,000-$20,000, but the provisional now, from what I understand, is really kind of a lot of times all what you need right now. So I mean, again, those, and that's the type of feedback I'm looking for. When I mentioned that we were able to create workshops depending on what people's interests and needs are, when you say stuff like that, I'm like, all right, okay, who can I bring in to talk about that? So I mean, this is the type of conversational flow that I'm enjoying, and that, like I said, I kind of want to pull out of it.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna say, I know we got one introduction, but there's a couple things that really jumped out. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, and we're not directly talking about finance stuff, but I think it's all applicable. So I think we're on a great path. But just kind of assistance, and talking about people being adverse to help. And I know when I first started talking to Shartae, she was really talking about how she wants to help people through the process as well.
Yeah.
And that's part of the program she's in with Sector, was really to kind of encourage that next generation of people to come behind her. But one of the things that really resonated to me about this was just about people helping out. It's probably about like 2 years ago for me, and I had to really get comfortable with it. But the way I was kind of brought up was like, you know what, you work hard, you grind hard, you kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Everybody's out there, nobody's looking out for you, and things along that line. And I'm not saying that still doesn't exist; it still does. But what I realized was that my success in life, and I don't mean success like materialistic success, but just being able to create the life that I want, be a father, all that stuff. A lot of that is because somebody put me on. you know, we were talking a little bit earlier, but like my exposure to business started at a really young age. My grandparents would buy me shares of stock as Christmas presents or just presents instead of Nintendos and stuff like that. So my point to that is, if I grew up in a completely different circumstance, I mean, I might have still made it one way or the other, but I had people put me on. I mean, my grandfather on my mom's side, he's a real estate broker in Waukesha. I was able to pick his brain and not even realize that. My dad, just even being there, you know what I'm saying, and being like, and like you mentioned, you know, with your little man, like, you know what, that's important to me raising him. How can I create, you know, a job for myself or a business for myself where I can still focus on my priorities? And that really made me step back and kind of realize that it's way more than just me out here. Like, yeah, I have to work hard with what I've been given. Like, I can't ever take that away, and that's all I know how to do is work hard. But it really took people looking out for me. You know, there's one or two teachers or a friend of mine that was like, you know what, you a hardhead, you a hothead, but I see something in you, I really believe in you. Or that teacher that just let something slide that one day because they knew your parents or whatever it may be. And it took me a lot of years to really kind of accept that and be like, you know what, there are people that look out. And so what it made me think about as well, and we kind of talked about the 20,000 people to 50,000 people, I'm to the point now where I'm like, you know what, there might be haters out there and all this other stuff, but if I can find the 2 or 3 people that really got my back, or that advisory board of those 5 people that say, you know what, Shartae, we're gonna go to the mat for you, I'm cool. You know what I'm saying? I wish everything else was gravy over here, but if I can get those 5 people, I can get my great bit, you know, if we can ride like we're supposed to, I can take the world over. And that's one of the other things that a lot of times as entrepreneurs, a lot of us are like control freaks. Like, we want everything perfect. Like, it has to be this way, it has to be that way. And that's all cool, fine, and dandy. But once you get to a certain stage, it's not going to be just you anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you got 20 weddings booked and 5 of them is on the same weekend, you got to hire somebody else to do that. And part of you's like, man, you're going to mess my brand up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have a certain way I want my stuff to go. Or, you know, let's say you cook and you need somebody to deliver, and both of you guys, it's hard to let go of that. I guess the grant thing, they're not as prevalent as a lot of people think they are.
Okay.
They're really not. I mean, I know we've all probably seen that commercial with the dude with the question mark and like, you know, get money now and stuff like that. Some of that stuff does exist, but it's really, really far and few between. Now, there are a couple grants. There's actually a grant that just came out again in the city of Racine. It's called the Minority Matching Grant, MMG. And actually, I can email that out to you guys. On that sign-in sheet, if you just put your email address, I can actually email that out. They just sent it to me about a week ago. What that grant does though, it's basically a reimbursement grant. So if you spend $5,000, they'll reimburse you half of that.
Okay.
So it's not like, hey, here's a blank check, here's $3,000. You spend it. So, for example, if you want to get new computer equipment, if you wanted to, get new cameras, whatever it may be, you spend it. Give them the receipts, they'll reimburse for it. You want to buy some kitchen equipment, whatever it may be. You want to you want to hire a software developer. They can actually include something like that. So they do have some opportunities like that.
And who is that through?
It's changed hands a few times. The SBDC at Parkside was facilitating it the last 2 years. Racine County Economic Development was doing it a couple years before that. This organization actually was. I think the money comes from Racine County in some capacity, but there's been a few other organizations that kind of were the ones who facilitated it. But I believe this last one just came out from SBDC, I think, Small Business Development Center. I believe so. There's another one it's a manufacturing grant, kind of the same way, 50% reimbursement. But as far as like being able to find $20,000, boom, here you go, start your business, does not really happen very frequently. Now, for example, if you have some unique situation, sometimes something might pop up. So sometimes you might, like if you're a vet, sometimes they might have veteran programs where they might have $5,000 for just a disabled vet to start a business. So certain times there are kind of unique things like
disabled.
I'm just giving you an example.
Oh.
I mean, there's some that are disabled ones that I've heard of. There's other ones where it's not a direct grant, but you actually get cheaper money. So, for example, they have a program through the SBA. It's called the Patriot Express loan. So I think being a vet, if you're trying to get under $250,000, it's like 2% interest or something like really inexpensive. So, you know, if you went to a normal bank, it might be 4%, 6%, something along that line. So there's things that are like that are grant-like, but it's not necessarily free money. Our organization, we do have a loan fund. We got like $150,000 that we can loan out. But we really try to keep that maximum at about 15 to 20,000, depending on the size of the project for each project. But since I really only have enough money to give out to about 10 businesses, it's not like if you knock on my door, you know, you necessarily get it. It's a little more rigorous than that. I guess the other part that I really like to focus on, and I completely understand the importance of money, especially with me having that monetary background. But what I've noticed so many times, what's more important than money is like really, really good ideas with a good team that can back those ideas. And maybe I'm just an optimist. I'm a firm believer that if you have a good idea, you'll get money for it.
That's true.
That's just the way I am. I mean, I've seen people that if you're really passionate about it, you pre-sell a dinner. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what? Okay, you need me to cater. You know, this is my first catering job. You need me to cater 100 people. Well, I need you to pay for it up front. Okay, you know, we really believe in you. We like, you know, Craig's done some photos for us before. Here you go. Here's $500 to start. And so I've seen people start their businesses like that. Now, if you're trying to start, you know, a software development company that needs to raise, you know, $8 million, that's a whole different story. I mean, I get that. But if we're talking smaller service-based businesses where it's, you know, a couple $1,000, $10,000, there's a lot of creative ways to do that. And to go exponentially. Yes, ma'am.
I gotta go pick up my son.
Don't forget to leave $5 on the table.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have that. Same here.
But again, and part of what our organization is about is improving communities through entrepreneurship, and to really be a network of people. So when you have questions like this, feel free to email them to me, and I'll find whatever resources I can. Just, you know, like I said, sending out the grants and things along that line. So I mean, that's completely what it's about. Just based on a lot of conversations that was going on, there's a couple things, and we have probably about 7:15, 7:20 right now, so I'll probably just go another 20 minutes and then we'll leave it at that. But when we think about like finance and financial budgeting and all that, it means so many different things. And so these were probably 5 or 6 really kind of key points that jumped out to me that are probably very general for any business. And there's going to be minutia or specifics for every business, but these are probably the main ones that jump out. So I'm just going to kind of throw some of these at you, and I just kind of want some feedback. Let me know what you know about them. So do you guys know what the difference is between a fixed expense and a variable expense?
The fixed expense is the water bill, light bill, cable bill, the stuff you know you have to, that comes out every month.
Water sometimes not, but
That's 3 months.
yeah, but you're right. So fixed being you're gonna have that no matter what. So rent was a perfect example. The reason I said water not necessarily is because you pay by the gallon. So if you use more, but for the most part you're right. So rent. So if you know renting restaurant space, you're renting studio space, office space, you're renting a group home. If you have 0 clients walk through that door, or if you have 1,000 clients walk through that door, you're gonna pay $1,500 a month, no matter what. And so what part of that is used to do, they have an equation called a break-even equation, and you kind of mentioned that when you had a boutique. It's like, all right, what do I need to cover? What do I need to make every month to cover all my expenses? So that's what that fixed part comes into play. The variable, it actually is going to be really good related to restaurants. The variable basically means it varies for how much you sell. So for example, if you have a restaurant space, you're spending $1,500 a month in rent. That has nothing to do with how many catfish fillets you're buying and things along that line. So if you're, I can't remember what numbers are now. Let's say each catfish fillet is $1, and you're selling them for, I'm just going to use easy math, $4 a piece. Your profit on that is $3.
Right.
So your variable expense is here. So if you say, okay, well I sold 1,000 fillets or 100 fillets, you're able to kind of calculate what that is. So that's what a variable expense is. Again, variable basically means that it changes from what you have. Service-based businesses really don't have too many variable expenses, which are good. These cupcakes are another perfect example of variable expenses. And this is actually kind of a good segue into profit and actually knowing what your true costs are. And that was one of the things that I was really stickler with when I had barbecue time. I could tell you basically to the penny anything that came out of the restaurant, what it costs. And I mean how much time was put into that. Like if it took me 15 minutes to box this thing up, sauce, if it was a 4-ounce cup of sauce, even if I poured over it, I knew what it cost to make that 4 ounces of cost. And I had it set up in an Excel spreadsheet. So for example, if I said, all right, it takes one can of, sauce, how many ever tablespoons of this, and this, I'll put all that in there and it did all the math for me. So I said, a can costs $2, this costs 50 cents, this costs 50 cents, and it makes how many gallons of sauce, 4 ounces of, so I knew how much each box costed that it went in, each plastic bag, and so I knew to the T what everything costed. And so that's, really kind of the same thing with what you're doing. I mean,
Very similar.
yeah, very, very, very similar to what you're doing. Your two situations probably don't have as many costs where you need to go to that necessary degree of detail. But if you think about the grocery expenses, I know when we put the budget together, we just said, okay, we're going to assume, $50 or $100 per person for groceries. But you can really get down to the point where every week you really track that. And you're like, man, you know what? This guy actually is $75. He's $48, and really know to that. He drinks this much water a day. I mean, you can really get to that level of detail. Sometimes it gets kind of overkill, but you can't get to that level of detail. The other part, and this is really related to kind of future estimates, is really your sales assumptions. And I run into a lot of people that feel kind of nervous about this piece because you're looking into the future. And a lot of people say, how do I know what I'm gonna make? Like, I don't know how much I'm gonna sell. Like, I have no idea. And that's a true statement. That's a true statement. And one of the things that really, I guess, kind of resonates with me about that is if you look at your budget, if you look at your projections, if you look at your business plan, anything along that line that's kind of like predicting what the future looks like, you kind of look at that as your goal. Or another way to compare it, and I just heard this recently, that's your map. Your map is going to be different than actually going outside, having a mail route. You can look at a map for what this block looks like, but it doesn't tell you it's snowing out there. It doesn't tell you it's raining. It doesn't tell you about the dog that ain't tied up. So, you know what I'm saying? So all that other stuff that you as a person have to adjust to accordingly, but you still have that map that says, you know what, well, I know roughly what size it is. I know in ideal conditions how long it would take me to walk this and things along that line. It doesn't tell you to factor in, you gotta pick up packages and all this other stuff. So,
I wish you would tell my boss that.
So something like this, it's really a guide more than anything, but you want it to be a realistic guide. And so a lot of times where people do their assumptions is really doing a lot of market research. So in Chartier's example, she's worked in the industry before, and she's talked to people that say, how much are you really going to make per person? If you think 4 people are going to come live at the adult home, are they going to come in immediately? Or based on what we normally see, we're going to get 1 person coming now, we're going to get another person coming in 6 months. Or for example, with you cooking and catering, you can say, all right, what do I think I'm going to do in the future? If I know I'm doing this right now as a part-time side, if I really ramp things up, would that be twice as big, 3 times as big, 4 times as big? And so again, it's not something that, if you don't hit that number, you're necessarily looking at yourself as a failure, but it's really like a goal, like a motivation. Say, you know what? If this is my full-time job, I could do 4 times of what I'm doing right now. And to me, if you're a real go-getter, if you see you're short on that, you're going to reassess that. And a lot of times people get the impression that once you put these sales assumptions together, and I even kind of use this with financial projections, sales assumptions, a business plan, those things are never ending. And so what I mean by that, every day running your business, you're going to learn new information. So you might have thought, okay, you know what, I'm going to have this thing up and running, I'm going to have four people in there. And things are going to go so well that, you're going to realize that in 6 months, you want to open up another one instead of you thought 3 years. Or maybe you didn't think you were going to open a restaurant space right away. You were just going to do catering, but things went so well that it grew better. Or your product took off even more than you thought it would. So it's really, just kind of a guide, a way to encourage you to do that. And it can change all the time. I mean, I remember, and that's probably one of the hardest parts about writing a business plan or doing your financial analysis is every day you want to add something else to it. And you just have to kind of stop and say, all right, we've done enough research. I think roughly this is what we're going to be able to do. Let's go out there and make that happen. And if you want to look at it and dust it off every month and say, okay, we thought we were going to do this. How close do we come to that? Do we adjust that accordingly? If we thought we were going to do 10,000 this month, did we come in at 11? Why did we come in at 11? Was it because it was because it was Valentine's Day and next month we're not going to have that? or we just marketed that well on Facebook. Or if you come in at 8, you're like, okay, why did we come in at 8? You know what? 10 was too high. 8 makes sense. We're gonna stay at 8,000 for the first couple months, and then we're gonna grow from there. So that's one of the other things that really jumped up. The other one, this probably goes to the financing aspect of it, and it somewhat relates to the fixed and variable, but it's really the budgeting part of it. And what I mean by budgeting isn't necessarily like how much you're gonna do in sales, but I'm gonna call this kind of the startup budget. And this kind of goes probably, Craig, to kind of your first points was, you mentioned spending $600 and making $5 that first time. But if you think about it, that $600 you spent that was for equipment that you probably use, forever or until it stopped working anymore. So it felt like, man, I just spent all this money, but I only made $5. But it was stuff that you had to have. And so that budgeting is like, all right, I'm gonna be able to sell this many dinners, I'm gonna be able to sell this much software, I'm gonna be able to have this many people come in, I'm gonna be able to sell this many photos, but I need to have all this equipment to start up, I need to have all this inventory to start up, I need to have software development costs to start up, I need to have furnishing the house costs to start up. What's that gonna be? And it kind of lets you know what type of cushion do you have instead of just jumping out there and kind of getting in a little bit more. And Shartae can really attest to that. A lot of the time that we spent was really probably on these 3 parts right here. What truly are your costs? And a lot of times, people just say they don't know. And they're like, well, how do I figure that stuff out? And a lot of it is kind of doing the spy type of stuff that Shartae talked about, like going to the restaurant depots of the world and just.
Well, cause we looked at a location because it's getting bigger than our home, and my thing is, I wanna be able to go in and pay my rent for the year. Just in case business doesn't do good, I know we still got a place to work out of.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was my biggest thing.
And that's exactly it. That's contingency. That's cushion. That was something Shartae mentioned about. She looked at 5 to 6 months, and that's exactly right. It's like, all right, and that's where I probably seen a lot of businesses fail, and it's kind of scary and you feel bad. But most businesses off the jump, you don't necessarily make a huge amount of money off the top. Especially when I see people quitting a day job. Like, I like the way you're doing it. It's like, all right, this is kind of, I'm starting this over here. I still got my consistent, and then I'm gonna switch them eventually. Maybe you part time.
That's my goal.
And I get that, and that's really, really smart, because if you think about it, if you have a consistent paycheck, now all of a sudden you have to make up for that. I mean, when I was at barbecue, I didn't pay myself for 2 years straight. I was burning through my own pockets, and so it is very important to say, all right, what contingency do I need to have? I need to be able to pay my rent for a year no matter what. If I don't have $20,000 set aside to pay my rent, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to still do this part time and grow. So I mean, there's a lot of I very seldom encourage people to just completely jump out there anymore. Like maybe a couple years ago, I was a little bit more for it. But when people say they got families and why is it, you get really frustrated when you feel like, if you made $4,000 a month and you don't get that right away and your lifestyle doesn't adjust. I mean, that can be really, really aggravating, especially if you don't have, you guys are together in support.
Right.
But if you mess around and have somebody that's not in your corner, you're gonna hear that all day long, and it's not gonna last that long. Let's say you rent $600. I just use $1,000 for the sake of discussion. What my head tells me is like, all right, these are all my fixed costs. How many photos do I gotta sell? How many plates do I gotta sell? How much software do I have to sell? How many people do I have to have come in to make that? And like I've had people that are, bakers as well. And I really want to encourage them to get into that. But I'm like, all right, if your lifestyle right now is you basically making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year, after you pay, you got to basically sell $300,000 worth of baked goods. Maybe less than that. If you're thinking you're paying rent out of that, you're paying your, 2/3 of that in flour costs and all that, rent, other employees, delivery, gas, and then telling me they're making $2,500 a month now or $3,000 a month now in sales. To go from $30,000 in sales to $300,000, you need to be really comfortable that you can take your business 10 times up. And a lot of times that's one of the first realizations of people, like how much money that you really need to generate to put in your pocket. And actually one of the rules of thumb that I use, aside from service businesses, is at the end of the day, if you clear 10% of what you bring in, you're actually doing really good. Now, service-based businesses, a lot of times you can push that closer to 30, 35%. Certain businesses that maybe don't have a lot of fixed costs, like maybe you're, renting a kitchen space or something like that, you can probably push that up a little bit. a lot of times there's a little fudge in there, maybe you're, buying some extra stuff that you don't necessarily need, but even if it's at 20%, and that's a high number, I think McDonald's is like 10%, and they're like one of the most efficient in the world. 20%, I mean, if you did $100,000 in sales, 20% that's only 20 grand. So if you're like, you know what, I really need to put $50,000 a year in my pocket to make up for my income, I mean, whatever that winds up being, not crisp right now. That's $200 and something thousand, $250,000 to make $50,000. So it's like, all right, what does that equate to? And that's how I kind of look at it on a daily basis, on a per photo basis, on a per hourly basis. And so if I'm selling plates or whatever it may be, if I have to make $100,000 in sales, how many catfish dinners is that?
So a lot.
Exactly. and again, it's not meant to discourage because it can be done. It happens. But it's like, all right, well, you know what? That means I got to sell this many on average. But you know what? Average isn't really accurate because my busy day is actually really Thursday, Friday, and a Sunday crowd, or maybe Saturday, whatever it may be. And say, okay, well, if I need to do 100 plates on average, what's that reality going to be? It might be 50 on Monday and Tuesday because that's a slow day, and it's going to be 200 Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So for me, the type of analysis that I put together, a lot of times you see people put budgets together like year 1, year 2, year 3. They'll say, I made $100,000 this year, I made $200 this year, and I made $400 this year. That's cool. That's fine and dandy. I like it to the point of I do it on a monthly basis, and that's what Shartae and I worked with. And actually, if I'm doing it for myself, I almost want to know it on a daily basis, especially when I run a restaurant. I want to know if Friday's my busy day. If Monday's the day I need to be shut down, I'm going to be shut down. I'm going to go work my regular job.
Right.
I want to know to that degree level because where part of this happens, if I'm just looking at it on a yearly basis, that might tell me by the end of the year how things look, but it doesn't tell me if I'm dead in the water during the year. Now, most of these businesses here, this wouldn't be an issue, but I'm going to give you an example of the janitorial service, or I mentioned the guy that cleans out houses for the banks. Or the construction company, if you're not getting paid for 30 or 90 days, you might show that you sold some stuff, but if that money's not in your pocket, you might have said you sold $100,000 worth of stuff, but if you don't get your $100,000 for 30, 60, 90 days, you got all those fixed expenses we talked about, all this other stuff that you have to pay, you don't have the money to pay it. So that's all the different type of layers of analysis. I mean, there's quite a bit, and realistically, any one of these topics, come on. Any one of these topics, I mean, you can take a massive amount of time to spend on. But I just kind of wanted to give you guys, a really, really general overview.